So the area leaders are working to revitalize that part. We've had so-called tax increment financing areas in North St. Paul that we've sponsored, Representative Lilly and I, and in a bipartisan way, we've gotten that done. Have had communications with Maplewood on various items, and in fact, we've talked a bit about some opportunities in South Maplewood, and that's one of the reasons that Mr. Jenkins is heading up that commission with Maplewood, and we look forward. But to what those recommendations will be, but we want to hear what the grassroots says. As Representative Lilly said, the key is having a prepared workforce, and that's how well we can do in our public schools as well as in partnership with private schools, with our community college, Century College, where many of us were just a couple of days ago. That is where jobs are provided through the training, and we are very close in touch with them. I also want to mention the bonding bill, which provides a number of projects for the trades. We have a shovel-ready project for the fire training facility over in Maplewood, and we will have a number of these projects back again. And also I want to mention that a constituent, Bob Knepper, North St. Paul, is working very much on a bill on creative freedom for intellectual property, and that has a lot of potential, and we'll talk more at some point.
Thank you. And Mark Jenkins.
Thank you. As Senator Uyghur said, I do chair Maplewood's Business and Economic Development Commission, so I'm very aware of this issue in visits we do to businesses throughout the city and find out, what the city can do to help them and what are the issues facing them. Long term, I don't think anyone up here disagrees. Education is the key to long-term job growth. Jobs are pulled in, they gravitate to where there's a qualified employment base. Those jobs then help build your housing, and those jobs in that housing increases your revenue. So education, jobs, all part of the long-term plan. We have to pay attention to that. But short-term, I disagree with the Democrats' strategy of stimulus. Granted, stimulus money does build jobs. It does help build infrastructure, as Representative Lilly talked about. But the problem is, all of those jobs are temporary. At some point, the road is done. At some point, the bridge is built. Where do those jobs go after that? While we've been building roads, which are important, and I like the infrastructure, I'm not saying the total package is bad, but I don't see that as a jobs bill. I see that as infrastructure. But while we're building that infrastructure, 3M is losing hundreds of middle managers because their business is suffering. And those are not jobs that the government is going to help. So my proposal and legislation I would introduce is job creation tax credits that will be tied to results. If a company is going to build and produce more jobs, they will qualify for tax credits. If year after year they continue to bring more jobs to the state of Minnesota, they will continue to qualify for those tax credits. If there's a year there's stagnation or job loss, no tax credits. I don't agree with the Republicans who say just take away all their taxes and jobs are going to come. We need to give them direct incentives that are applied to direct results.
Thank you. So a chance for some follow-up. Joseph Polinchek.
Basically, what he said is right. If they want to create jobs, we can give them a tax credit, and like he says, when the jobs are done or laid off, then tax credit stops. But we have to have a source of, and not just here in the cities, we have to have a source of statewide jobs in different areas. Agriculture up north, out east, down south, or out west and down south. And the buildings or the businesses, like he mentioned, 3M, Cargill, and all the big ones here in the cities. So if we can figure out the main method of giving the tax credits when needed and dissolving them when they're not needed, that's probably the direction we should go.
Thank you. Nathan Hansen, follow-up.
I disagree with the idea that taking money from one business that doesn't get subsidies, like mine, and giving it to another that people who are in the legislature that work for the government think is a better business is a way to create jobs. That hurts jobs. If I get left alone more and I pay less in taxes in my business, there's a chance that I could hire someone. We need to create a climate with good roads, good infrastructure, good education, wherein businesses can succeed, and that is the perspective I will take to this job.
Thank you. Leon Lilly, follow-up?
Here's an example of where a bonding bill has helped our local community. St. Jude Medical, less than 2-3 miles from here, had problems. They have a split campus. Part of their facility is north of 36, tucked in on the north side, and half of it's on the south side, tucked in. They've been coming to the legislature, and through the efforts of Senator Uyghur, myself, and Representative Scalzi, and the chair of bonding, Alice Hausman, and such, we've been able to get a bridge. And now that bridge is causing traffic jams and whatnot on 36. But when it's done, it's going to help us keep
I can't see, so
a major employer in our area.
Thank you. Next, Chuck Uyghur.
Yes, and thank you, Leon, for mentioning that. This is the private sector asking for assistance in the infrastructure to create. They had an impact of 300 or more jobs for that. Another one, 3M Company. They came to us asking for an additional lane on the I-94. It was called the 3M logjam at one point, and we were able, after working aggressively, I made a point of getting on the Transportation Committee, Finance, and that was done within budget, under $11 million, so that we do have that. That is puts them at a competitive advantage. We have many tax credit programs in place, including the recently enacted Angel Investors Credit.
Thank you. And follow-up, Mark Jenkins.
Okay. The Angel Investor Tax Credit, which I actually was at the Senate hearings on, was a good thing, but that is not the bonding issue that I want to address. The Rice Street Bridge was only put through in bonding because it was tied to the St. Jude Medical Campus. St. Jude's choice of where they locate their buildings is not a government issue. That bridge needed to be repaired anyway. You could see from the top down to the lanes passing below you. That was a very important infrastructure move. But I think using St. Jude as an excuse was just that, to add it to the bonding bill. In the end, it was a good infrastructure plan, but temporary jobs at best.
Thank you. So I just want to point out, I can't, so when it's, a number of people have mentioned education, so let's talk about education. We know that education, public education, K-12 or E-12, makes up a good percentage of the state budget. What would be your top 2 priorities for education funding, and why? And we'll start this question with Nathan Hansen.
The question is, how would I fund education? I guess that's the system we have right now. I think that's
how would you prioritize? Right, the funding for education.
How would I prioritize it? I think it's a high priority. It's a legal obligation of the state. The Minnesota State Constitution says that a K through 12 education must be provided to students, so that we can't renege on that. How that's provided, it doesn't mention teachers' unions or anything like that. I think that we need to have some more freedom of education. I have 3 college degrees. Without going to get a special license, I'm not allowed to go teach social studies or even 6th grade social studies or anything without getting an extra license. But it is a high priority. We need to have a free system. We need to fund it. It is an absolute legal obligation of the state. I can't just say, no, we're going to cut it and destroy it. The people that created our Constitution put it in there. They wanted they wanted people to be able to go to school and people to be educated, and opportunity for people. So I would keep it as a high priority. It is a high priority. I mean, if you go around the country and people know about the University of Minnesota, people know about our public school systems. We have good public school systems here, and we have good teachers.
Thank you. Leon Lilly.
Well, I'm going to fail right from the get-go because I have 3 items. Number 1 priority would be early childhood and getting kids off to a good start. There's Art Rolnick from the university, or from what is he from? The Federal Reserve has done studies, and it's just clear the return on the dollar is just huge. And just with our gap in our society, with students of color, and unfortunately, we're doing a horrible job and we just need to figure that out. And I just really am a firm believer in getting kids off to a good start, and just the value of a quality education for all kids in the state of Minnesota, the K-12. And then, so my failure is the third, and I really am a strong believer in affordable higher ed opportunities. And I just think it's ridiculous, the costs that our kids are being left with in the state of Minnesota, and it's clearly a failure to me. The governor, as he stands right now, is much like me. He went to South St. Paul, I went to North St. Paul, he went to the U, he went, but he's forgotten where he's come from. And it's a great disappointment to me that he's had affordable education in the state of Minnesota, and we owe that to the kids of our state.
Thank you. Chuck Uyghur.
You want two priorities as it relates to education? Okay, I basically agree with what Representative Lilly just said. I'll just amplify. And I've walked this talk throughout my entire public service career for early childhood education. To the extent a student is ready by kindergarten, it's going to substantially increase the likelihood of their being successful. It's voluntary, these types of programs, but I remember participating with my own kids in the programs that we had in 622, and it's what we need to continue to work on, and we have a policy goal of Ready by K. Investing in our schools for K-12 so that we can provide students ready for college, for post-secondary opportunities, and that is our state policy goal as well. In fact, we have what's called the P20, P being for preschool, 20 reflecting beyond high school graduate, a P20 partnership, and I represent the Senate on that with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce and a number of other groups where we look at how we can more effectively look at the educational programs. For higher education, whatever we can do to make it more affordable, accessible, and important on that right now is that we get high quality, the best we can for the new chancellor, for the MnSCU system, as well as for the University of Minnesota. And earlier, Nathan had mentioned about the salaries for Tubby and others. We don't set those salaries. I've raised this question several times when we do the confirmation hearings for the Board of Regents. It's the Board of Regents that does that. And as a lawyer, you probably know about sovereign immunity and in the Constitution, where the university precedes the state, but we realize how important the U is, but we are restricted on some aspects. We have made a number of overtures on that, but education will continue to be my highest priority.
Thank you. Mark Jenkins.
Thank you. The first thing that the state needs to do is keep its promises. For the last 8 years, and we've talked about this with city government, but it also impacts our schools, the state has made commitments to the school districts with certain levels of aid, and they, quote, certify those numbers in September. The schools draft their budgets. The schools figure out what they need to do to be fiscally responsible. And then in April, May, or maybe in December of 2008, the state comes to the table and says, sorry, I can't pay your allowance, or I'm only going to pay a fraction of it. School funding, first and most important priority is the school districts need to know what monies they can count on from the state so they can set a responsible budget up front. That irresponsibility on the state's part has led all three of our cities, North St. Paul, Oakdale, and Maplewood, to budget less than what the state actually promised them in September, because they don't trust the state anymore when the state makes a promise on what they're going to fund. So the first thing is the state needs to make sure it keeps its promises. Secondly, eventually, as the economy recovers, but we need to plan today. I'm not saying we spend the money today, but this is a priority today. As the economy recovers, I would like to see the state of Minnesota move towards public financing of post-secondary education. It's a priority today because if we wait till we have the surplus, we will not have a plan to use it properly at that time. So plan today for the surpluses we hope to have in the future. And those would be my two priorities.
Thank you. And Joseph Polinchek.
Education is a real high priority. In fact, I've been helping my grandson with his homework, and he's doing stuff in second grade we didn't do till fifth grade. We've got a bunch of good teachers. The only problem I'm finding with our education system is that the public school districts have to be more accountable